Love the fast-paced parkour, epic sword fights, and ancient mystique of Prince of Persia? Then you're in for a treat. Here are 20 incredible games that capture that same magic. Action-packed, beautifully crafted, and guaranteed to scratch that Prince of Persia itch. Let's dive in.
Time for justice!
At number 20, Mirror's Edge. Mirror's Edge strips away the swords and sorcery, trading ancient ruins for a sterile, dystopian metropolis. But don't let the look fool you. This is a game about movement, flow, and freedom. The Prince of Persia connection is all about the parkour. The game's first-person perspective makes every leap, wall run, and slide a heart-pounding, gut-wrenching experience. You're not a warrior prince, you're a runner named Faith, using your incredible agility to navigate the city's rooftops, delivering sensitive info while dodging a totalitarian regime. The focus is almost entirely on navigating the environment. You learn to see the world not as streets and buildings, but as a complex, interconnected playground. The city itself becomes the puzzle, and your moveset is the key. While the combat is definitely secondary, the thrill of keeping your momentum, of chaining together fluid movements to bypass obstacles and enemies, is where Mirror's Edge truly feels like a modern sci-fi evolution of the Prince's core gameplay.
What is that?
That is your future.
At number 19, God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. Okay, this might seem like an odd choice at first. Kratos is a brute, a god of war defined by his overwhelming strength and rage, a far cry from the agile, nimble prince. The combat is heavy, visceral, and the main event. So why is it on this list? Because under all that mythological carnage is a core of exploration and environmental puzzle solving that will feel surprisingly familiar. The modern God of War games, especially Ragnarok, feature intricate, sprawling levels that fold in on themselves, revealing new paths as you gain new abilities. Sound familiar? This is the heart of 3D Prince of Persia level design. You'll frequently find areas you can't get to yet, forcing you to mentally bookmark them and come back later with a new tool or skill. The environmental puzzles, while often centered on Kratos' Leviathan axe or Blades of Chaos, require you to really think about your surroundings. You'll be freezing gears in place, burning away brambles, and manipulating structures to move forward. These moments are a great break from the frenetic combat, demanding observation and cleverness in a way that directly echoes the puzzle-filled temples and palaces of Persia. At number 18, Psychonauts 2. Let's take a step away from the grim and gritty and into the weird and wonderful. Psychonauts 2 is a 3D platformer masterpiece, and while its style is a psychedelic trip into the human mind, rather than a historical epic, its gameplay DNA is pure platforming gold. At its core, Psychonauts 2 is all about acrobatic traversal through incredibly imaginative and complex worlds. As Raz, a newly graduated psychonaut, you'll leap, double jump, grind on rails, and use psychic powers to navigate surreal mental landscapes. Each mind you enter is its own world, with its own rules, themes, and platforming challenges. One level might be a giant, casino-themed hospital, while another is a dental horror show. This constant creativity in the level design is where it feels so connected to Prince of Persia. The best Prince of Persia levels are memorable, intricate puzzles in themselves, and Psychonauts 2 delivers that in spades.
Approaching the Motherlode.
I can't believe I'm really here! Psychonauts headquarters!
At number 17, Dead Cells. From the whimsical to the punishing, Dead Cells is a lightning-fast 2D roguelike that, at first glance, might seem all about combat. But look closer and you'll find that fluid, responsive movement system that makes modern 2D platformers so addictive. It's this flow state, this seamless blend of combat and traversal, that earns it a spot here. In Dead Cells, you are the beheaded, a reanimated corpse trying to escape a cursed island. Every run is different, with procedurally generated levels and a huge arsenal of weapons and skills. The PoP connection is twofold. First, the sheer fluidity of movement. The dodge roll is your best friend, and learning its timing to weave through enemy attacks and traps is everything. The platforming is fast, tight, and demands precision, echoing the exhilarating feel of nailing a tough sequence in the Lost Crown. You're constantly moving, climbing, and leaping, and the controls just feel incredibly good. At number 16, Blasphemous. If you found the dark, brooding atmosphere and punishing difficulty of Warrior Within to be your jam, then welcome to the world of Custodia. Blasphemous is a 2D action platformer steeped in grotesque Gothic horror, inspired by Spanish religious art. It is grim, it is challenging, and it is absolutely captivating. You play as the Penitent One, a silent knight trapped in a land suffering under a terrible curse known as the Miracle. Your pilgrimage will take you through stunningly detailed, yet deeply unsettling pixel art worlds. The Prince of Persia comparison comes from its demanding platforming and oppressive atmosphere. The world of Blasphemous is a labyrinth of traps and environmental hazards. Spikes are everywhere, bottomless pits are a constant threat, and every new screen presents a potential death trap. This focus on careful, deliberate platforming through a hostile world is pure classic Prince of Persia.
Was called the Miracle.
At number 15, the Uncharted series. If Assassin's Creed is Prince of Persia's spiritual child, then Uncharted is its blockbuster Hollywood cousin. Developed by Naughty Dog, this series is the definition of cinematic action-adventure, and its DNA is deeply intertwined with the 3D Prince of Persia games. You play as Nathan Drake, a charismatic treasure hunter who is, let's be honest, part Prince, part Indiana Jones. The core gameplay loop will be instantly familiar. Explore ancient ruins, solve environmental puzzles, and get into frantic combat. The most direct parallel is the traversal. Drake is a master of platforming, constantly climbing crumbling walls, leaping across vast chasms, and shimmying along precarious ledges. These sequences are pure spectacle, often involving huge, scripted set pieces where the world falls apart around you. While it's maybe less about precise player input and more about the cinematic experience than POP, the feeling of being a daring adventurer in way over your head is identical. For a globe-trotting adventure that perfectly captures the spirit of exploration and cinematic platforming, the entire Uncharted series is essential. At number 14, Hollow Knight. Prepare to descend into the hauntingly beautiful Forgotten Kingdom of Hallownest. Hollow Knight is more than just a game. It's an atmospheric masterpiece and a benchmark for the modern Metroidvania genre. Its connection to Prince of Persia lies in its challenging platforming, deep exploration, and the sense of being alone in a vast, mysterious world. While Ori, which we'll get to later, nails the fluid acrobatics, Hollow Knight focuses on precision and challenge. The platforming can be brutal, requiring perfectly timed jumps and dashes to navigate spike-filled corridors and evade dangerous creatures. Some of the optional platforming challenges, like the infamous Path of Pain, would make the prince himself sweat. This emphasis on overcoming a difficult, trap-filled environment is a core part of the Prince of Persia experience. At number 13, Salt and Sanctuary. Take the 2D Souls-like formula, add a dash of Castlevania, and you get Salt and Sanctuary. This game is a dark, grim, and incredibly deep 2D action RPG that will appeal to fans who love the more challenging and combat-heavy side of the Prince of Persia series, particularly Warrior Within. You are the Saltborn, a shipwrecked sailor on a mysterious, fog-shrouded island. The game's aesthetic is bleak and oppressive, creating a powerful sense of place much like the darker POP games. The core gameplay is a blend of fast-paced combat and platforming. While the movement isn't as overtly acrobatic as wall running, the platforming is deliberate and requires care. You'll be navigating treacherous vertical levels, avoiding traps, and searching for shortcuts. The level design is intricate, often looping back on itself to create a cohesive, interconnected world. This depth, combined with the tough boss fights and the dark, somber atmosphere, makes Salt and Sanctuary a perfect choice for those who love the grittier side of the prince's adventures. At number 12, The Messenger. At first glance, The Messenger looks like a straightforward 8-bit action platformer in the vein of Ninja Gaiden. But just when you think you have it figured out, it completely transforms. This game is a brilliant love letter to classic gaming, and its clever mechanics and superb platforming make it a fantastic pick for Prince of Persia fans. You play as a young ninja tasked with delivering a scroll to save your clan. The initial 8-bit section is a masterclass in tight, responsive platforming. The core mechanic is cloud stepping, getting an extra jump in midair after striking an enemy or projectile. This single mechanic turns the platforming into a sublime rhythm-based dance. You'll be chaining strikes and jumps to soar across huge gaps, creating a sense of flow that is just incredibly satisfying. The Messenger is a must-play for its fantastic platforming, clever world design, and a wonderful sense of humor. At number 11, Guacamelee 2. Get ready for a vibrant, chaotic, and hilarious explosion of lucha libre-themed action. Guacamelee 2 is a Metroidvania that puts a heavy emphasis on combo-based combat and incredibly tight, complex platforming. If you enjoyed the combat flow of The Lost Crown and want something with a bit more suplexing, this is your game. You return as the luchador Juan Aguacate, pulled back from a peaceful retirement to save the entire Mexiverse. The game's art style is bold and colorful, and its humor is relentless, but underneath the jokes is a seriously well-designed platformer. The game constantly gives you new abilities that work for both combat and traversal. A powerful uppercut is also your high jump. A dashing headbutt breaks shields and lets you clear long gaps. For a high-energy, demanding, and incredibly fun 2D platforming experience, Guacamelee 2 is top tier. At number 10, Forgotten Anne. Stepping into the top 10, we have a game that leans heavily into the puzzle and narrative side of the Prince of Persia experience, wrapped in a breathtaking, hand-animated art style that looks like a Studio Ghibli film come to life. Forgotten Anne is a cinematic 2D puzzle platformer that's more about brainpower than brawn. You play as Anne, the enforcer in the Forgotten Lands, a magical world inhabited by Forgotlings, lost objects from the human world that have come to life. Your primary tool is the Arca, a device that lets you manipulate anima, the energy that powers this world. The gameplay revolves around this mechanic. You'll be rerouting power, operating machinery, and solving intricate environmental puzzles to progress. This thoughtful, deliberate puzzle solving will resonate with anyone who loved cracking the environmental riddles of the 3D Prince of Persia games.
I'm not sure I can do this alone.
You need to make a choice.
At number 9, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. What do you get when you combine the exploration of Tomb Raider, the Souls-like combat of, well, a Souls-like and the acrobatic traversal of Prince of Persia? You get the Star Wars Jedi series. These games are, in many ways, the 3D Prince of Persia successors we didn't know we were waiting for, just set in a galaxy far, far away. Playing as Cal Kestis, a Jedi on the run from the Empire, you'll explore a variety of planets, each with its own large Metroidvania-style map. The POP DNA is immediately obvious in the traversal. Cal can run along walls, swing from ropes, balance on narrow beams, and perform precise jumps. Jedi Survivor doubles down on this with even more parkour options, including a grappling hook and a mid-air dash. Chaining these moves together to navigate the massive, complex levels feels fantastic and is a direct evolution of the platforming in the Sands of Time trilogy. Throw in some clever environmental puzzles and a combat system that rewards timing and parries, and you have an experience that any Prince of Persia fan will feel immediately at home with. At number 8, Castlevania Advance Collection. Sometimes, to find the future, you have to look to the past. The Castlevania series, particularly the games in the Advance Collection, Circle of the Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, and Area of Sorrow, is foundational to the Metroidvania genre. The recent Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown owes its entire structure to games like these, making this collection an essential history lesson for fans. These games perfected the formula: a sprawling, gothic castle to explore, new abilities that unlock new areas, and a mix of combat and platforming. Area of Sorrow, in particular, is often called one of the best in the entire series. You play as Soma Cruz, a high school student transported to Dracula's castle, who discovers he has the power of dominance, allowing him to absorb the souls of defeated enemies to gain their abilities. This system provides an incredible amount of customization and replayability. Playing these classics gives you a newfound appreciation for the design of modern Metroidvanias and shows just how timeless a great formula can be.
Run, don't walk, 2. The Castlevania Advance Collection, available now.
At number 7, Tomb Raider Survivor Trilogy. It's impossible to talk about games like Prince of Persia without talking about Lara Croft. The two franchises have been intertwined for decades, each inspiring and borrowing from the other. The original Tomb Raider games translated the classic 2D PvP formula of deliberate platforming and trap-filled tombs into 3D. However, for a more modern take that aligns with the 3D Prince of Persia games, the Survivor Trilogy, Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raid, is the perfect fit. This rebooted series dials up the cinematic action and presents a grittier, more narrative-focused origin story for Lara. The gameplay loop is a trinity of platforming, puzzles, and combat. Lara is incredibly agile, scaling cliffs, leaping across chasms, and using tools like a climbing axe and rope arrows to traverse the environment. While the combat leans more towards third-person shooting than swordplay, the blend of acrobatic traversal, ancient mysteries, and high-stakes adventure makes the Tomb Raider series an essential experience for any fan of the Prince.
What would you do?
At number 6, Laika Aged Through Blood. Here's a true hidden gem that takes traversal-based gameplay and gives it a completely unique and brutal spin. Welcome to Laika Aged Through Blood, a self-described Motorvania. That's right, it's a Metroidvania on a motorcycle, and it is absolutely incredible. Set in a grim, post-apocalyptic wasteland, you play as a coyote warrior mother on a quest for vengeance. Your motorcycle isn't just your ride, it's your primary tool for platforming, combat, and survival. The gameplay is a delicate and exhilarating dance. You perform flips and tricks in the air to reload your weapons and deflect enemy projectiles. Your bike can block bullets, and landing a perfect parry by angling your bike just right is immensely satisfying. The game is difficult, with a somber story and a punishing world, but mastering the art of the Motorvania is a truly unique and rewarding experience. It's a perfect example of how the spirit of innovative, movement-focused gameplay can be expressed in entirely new ways. At number 5, Ori and the Blind Forest and the Will of the Wisps. Entering our top 5, we have arguably two of the most beautiful 2D platformers ever made. The Ori series is a masterclass in fluid movement, emotional storytelling, and breathtaking art design. For fans who love the pure acrobatic grace of Prince of Persia, these games are a feast for the senses. From the very first moments, the emphasis is on fluid, responsive control. As Ori, a small guardian spirit, you will leap, glide, and climb with an elegance that few games can match. The real game changer is the bash ability, which lets you launch yourself off of enemies and their projectiles in any direction. This single mechanic turns both platforming and combat into a high-speed aerial ballet. Chaining together bashes to soar through a level without touching the ground is one of the most sublime experiences in platforming. This captures that flow state that the best Prince of Persia games achieve. If the fluid, poetic movement of the prince is what you love most, the Ori games are nothing short of essential. At number 4, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Yes, we're putting a Prince of Persia game on a list of games like Prince of Persia, and for good reason. The Lost Crown is not just a return to form, it's a spectacular reinvention that stands shoulder to shoulder with the best of the modern Metroidvania genre. For any PoP fan who hasn't played it yet, this is your top priority. For those who have, it serves as the new benchmark for what we're looking for. This game takes the series back to its 2D roots, but infuses it with the combat complexity and acrobatic flair of the 3D games. You play as Sargon, one of the 7 immortals, on a mission to rescue the kidnapped prince on the cursed Mount Kaf. The platforming is simply best in class. It's tight, responsive, and incredibly creative, constantly introducing new time and space-bending powers that layer on top of each other to create mind-bending puzzles and traversal challenges. The Shadow of the Simmer ability, which lets you leave a clone of yourself and teleport back to it, is a stroke of genius that opens up incredible puzzle-solving possibilities. It is the new gold standard for the series and a must-play for any action platformer fan.
I will fulfill my destiny and save the kingdom.
At number 3, Assassin's Creed Mirage. There is no franchise more directly descended from Prince of Persia than Assassin's Creed. The original AC actually began its life as a PoP spin-off called Prince of Persia Assassins. While the series has since evolved into massive open-world RPGs, the 2023 release, Assassin's Creed Mirage, was a deliberate and celebrated return to the series' roots, and by extension, to its Prince of Persia DNA. Set in 9th century Baghdad, Mirage puts you in the shoes of Basim, a street thief who becomes a master assassin. The game strips away the sprawling RPG mechanics of recent entries to focus on the 3 original pillars: parkour, stealth, and assassinations. The parkour is front and center. Navigating the dense, vertical city of Baghdad feels like a true modern evolution of what the sands of time started. The movement is fluid, and the city is designed like a playground, encouraging you to find your own path across rooftops and through crowded markets. For anyone who fell in love with the historical settings, urban parkour, and stealth action of the 3D Prince of Persia games, Mirage is the purest expression of that fantasy you can play today.
We will be watching.
At number 2, upcoming title Duskfade. For our number 2 spot, we're looking to the future. It's one thing to find games that have captured the spirit of Prince of Persia in the past, but it's another to see its legacy actively inspiring the next generation. Announced for a 2026 release, Duskfade is a 3D action platformer that explicitly cites classic platformers as its inspiration, and its premise sounds like music to a PoP fan's ears. The game's concept is immediately intriguing. You play as Zirian, a young apprentice who must restore time itself in a world shrouded in eternal night. The taglines alone are enough to get you excited. Shatter the shackles of time as you jump, swing, and slash through a vibrant clockpunk world. This immediately brings to mind the time manipulation mechanics that made the Sands of Time so revolutionary. The developers promise a blend of dynamic platforming and fast-paced combat, aiming to rekindle the magic of the genre's classics. Duskfade represents the hope and excitement that new developers will carry the torch forward, and it looks incredibly promising. At number 1, the entire Assassin's Creed series. For our number 1 spot, it couldn't be anything else. If you are a fan of Prince of Persia, particularly the 3D games, and you have not played the Assassin's Creed series, you are missing out on the single greatest spiritual successor to the franchise. As we've mentioned, the connection is not just spiritual, it's literal. The mechanics, themes, and gameplay loops that defined the Sands of Time were the direct foundation upon which the entire Assassin's Creed universe was built. Every game in the series, from the original to the sprawling RPGs like Odyssey and Valhalla, is built on a core of historical tourism and acrobatic traversal. The signature parkour system, while evolving over the years, has always been about making complex environments your playground. Scaling the Colosseum in Rome, the pyramids of Giza, or the cathedrals of Paris provides that same sense of vertical freedom and awe that scaling the Tower of Babylon did. The leap of faith is the ultimate expression of the death-defying acrobatics the prince was known for. The Assassin's Creed series isn't just like Prince of Persia in many ways, it is the continuation of its legacy. a sprawling multi-generational epic born from the sands of time.
Fight to be free of fear!
Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos celebrating the best of gaming. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.